Yo, what is going on guys, XpertFusion here, and today we're going to be doing a video I've been planning on doing for quite some time now, and that is of course Blackout versus Warzone, the two Call of Duty Battle Royales. Which one of these Battle Royales is a better game mode? Now, I was going to do this for a while, but today I decided to do it because Nero Cinema recently uploaded a video talking about this, and he was giving his opinion on it, so if you guys want to go follow him on YouTube, go check his video out as well. He had a really good video on that. He was talking about basically the fact that he likes Blackout more than Warzone. He believes that's quite an unpopular opinion. And I wanted to go through different categories and say which of these two modes did better in each of those categories, and then we'll count up the tallies of which mode got more wins in each category in the end, and we'll figure out which game is better. Of course, in my opinion, because this is all going to be opinions. A lot of these categories, you might like one thing better than the other, while I might like the other thing better. It's all opinions. Don't get mad over it. It's okay. Of course, this isn't a perfect science because these categories aren't equal value, right? They're really not. There's some categories here that are definitely more important than other categories, but just to make this video a lot simpler, each category will only count for 1 point. Before I get into this, I would like to say please hit that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe for more Call of Duty videos in the future. So of course, I also gotta say Season 1 is coming soon, and Warzone will change dramatically because of that. That's why I wanted to get out this video before Season 1, so my opinions aren't really changed based on how Season 1 actually goes, because there could be a massive change for Warzone in Season 1. But when we're ranking these modes, we're going to be talking about the mode in its entirety, from launch all the way to current day. So basically how it was throughout the entire life cycle and how it still is to this day. So definitely take a look at the date this video is being published, because a lot of people like to hop on videos and be like, oh my god, you said this about this, but it's different now. It's like, well, look at the day I posted the video. Things change over time. Definitely Warzone could get even better over time, or it could get even worse. I have no idea. Blackout is not going to change though, at least to our knowledge. So it's basically going to stay exactly the way it is. And that's how my opinion is going to be on it. But let's get to this video. Let's start off with the first category, which is accessibility. So essentially, accessibility means how are players able to actually play this mode. Now, of course, this is a very obvious answer. Who's going to win this category? That is Warzone. Of course, Warzone is free to play, and it has crossplay. That's huge. Those two things automatically put it above Blackout in a second. Really no debate there. I would say this is probably the most important thing in terms of what made Warzone as popular as it is. I'm almost positive if it was only a part of Modern Warfare, you had to actually buy it to play it, I don't think it would have gotten nearly as popular. I really don't. I think it would have been still, played by a decent amount of people, but I think it would have died out eventually. And just kind of like how Blackout did, but Blackout was still around for a while. I'm not saying Blackout's like dead, but I think it definitely would have done the same thing Blackout did, where it just kind of slowly drooped off a little bit. Being free to play is huge because it gives everyone a chance to play it. No one has to pay anything, and it's a lot of people who just don't really want to spend money on Call of Duty anymore. They have a chance to. They could just try it out, and it got a lot of people to even buy the full game itself as well. And then crossplay is huge too, because then you can play with your friends regardless of what console or platform they're on, which is also massive. So accessibility obviously will be going to Warzone. Next up, I have stability. So stability is just overall, how did these games play over time? Was there a lot of glitches? Were there a lot of bugs? Was it very laggy? And that's basically throughout the entire life cycle, so not just currently, not just when it was at launch, this is throughout the entirety of it. And both modes have had an incredible amount of bugs and glitches. I mean, that's to be expected. Call of Duty games just have a lot of these in general these days. But I think from my experience, now this is obviously going to be very based on experience. I do think I probably experienced more bugs and glitches in Blackout than I have in Warzone, and Warzone just does overall run a little bit better, but there's still a lot of issues. It's very close for this one, but I think I'm just going to give it to Warzone because it does run a little bit smoother, especially if you're on like a higher end PC, or now on the, the next gen consoles. Warzone runs really well. But Blackout had some frame rate issues. There was a lot of bugs and glitches, some hit detection problems. It happened. I played both of these modes probably equally, maybe Warzone a little bit more throughout time, but I would like to say that I just think Blackout definitely hit more of these stability problems that Warzone has, even though Warzone still has a lot of issues. I mean, the cheating and the hacking and the bug, like crazy visual glitches with like those guns that just like take up a whole portion of your screen and you just can't see anything. That was a crazy glitch, but regardless, I think stability has to go to Warzone. Next up, graphics. So graphics was actually a really hard one to choose, which is pretty surprising probably for most people, because although Warzone looks a lot better in terms of the textures and the graphics themselves, like they are better. Yes, it definitely looks more realistic. The textures are more smoothed out. Like they're not like as, I don't want to say cartoony, because I don't really think cartoony automatically means bad, but you could tell in Blackout a lot of the textures sometimes just look really like clip art almost. You know, they're not the best looking graphics we've ever seen in COD. But Warzone is just so gray and just colorless and dull compared to Blackout, which is just so colorful and vibrant. I do prefer the colors in Blackout, I really, really do, but I have to be a little bit objective here, just a little bit here, and say that yes, the graphics are just so much better in Warzone, to the point where even though the colors are just not there, it still just looks like a better overall game. It does. And it was hard for me to say this because I do really like how Blackout looks. I think the colors are beautiful. It's easier to see people too. The visibility is much better in Blackout than it is in Warzone, at least from my experience. But I mean, just objectively speaking, yeah, the textures are better in Warzone. So I kind of have to hand it to that. Hopefully with this Cold War iteration of Warzone, they will give the map a more colorful vibe to it, because Cold War is obviously a more colorful game, and that would be great. But yeah, Warzone itself is just, it's just too gray. But I think I'm just going to give it to Warzone just because of, you know, I'm talking about graphics, not necessarily the colors themselves. I think the graphic fidelity in terms of the textures, like looking players up close, looking at your guns, they do look a little bit cleaner, so Warzone gets the point here. Next up, I have movement. So movement includes just like running, sliding, hopping, just overall how does the movement of the player feel? I'm actually going to give this to Blackout, surprisingly, and I really didn't notice there was a massive change in the movement until I played both of these modes today. Earlier, I went back and forth from Warzone and Blackout a couple times just to play a couple matches in each game, and I noticed Blackout feels a lot faster. Now, Cold War feels so much faster compared to all of them because the FOV slider, but I think that'll definitely get better when Warzone gets the FOV slider. And a lot of people love Warzone's movement, and I think it is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you do feel a little bit more weighted down in Warzone compared to Blackout. Blackout, I feel like I have more of an ability to move around quickly, like especially if I'm in a close quarters engagement, I can hop around the corner pretty fast. I can go up, you know, mantle a little bit quicker. I feel like in Warzone, especially when you have a bigger gun, it's more realistic that way, sure, with that being slower and such, but I just don't like it because you get in a lot of engagements where you really can't get out of it because some guy's lasering you from across the way, and you can't really, you know, finagle it well. Now if you put Dead Silence on in Warzone, oh, then you're a speed demon, but that's only with Dead Silence on, obviously. Without it, you're pretty slow, and you're also just, I don't love the sliding either. I think the sliding's a little awkward. I still think the sliding is a little awkward, even in Cold War to a degree. I do prefer Black Ops 4, Blackouts, and Black Ops 3 was even better with the sliding, but yeah, Blackout's just a little bit better with the movement, just a little bit better, but it's not a huge deal, I think, because Warzone's movement is still pretty good itself as well. Next up is probably also one of the most important factors in this mode, and that is the core mechanics specifically related to the health of the character. So this is time to kill, this is the armor, this is healing, this is how all of these features work, and I think Warzone's a lot better in this category. So Warzone's very different than Blackout in the way that you actually regain your health automatically in Warzone compared to in Blackout where you have to heal yourself. And the reason why I think this is better in Warzone is because you already have an armor system there, right? If there was no armor system, I would prefer having something there to have to bandage yourself to, you know, re-heal. I think that would be fine. But with armor on top of it in both games, it's a little bit ridiculous in Blackout having to, you know, heal yourself and then put more armor in. It gets a little crazy. But obviously in Warzone, it's just, you know, get my health back just by sitting in a corner or using even a stim shot, and then just pop in like 1 or 2 extra plates depending on how many you lose of that. Max 3 plates, right? It's not that bad. Now, in some ways, people might like it in Blackout more this way because it allows people to not be able to regain their health as easily, because many times in Warzone, yes, I will laser a guy, but he'll get behind a cover and I'll, get back to him relatively fast, but he'll already have full health again because my shots didn't really matter. And in Blackout, it is a little bit different because your shots make more of an impact. If you shoot someone from a distance and you come running up on them, they might still be healing. They might not even be close to being done all the way, and you can get them. But the reason why I still think Warzone's health system is still better, even keeping that in mind, is because when you have it so you can heal faster, it makes the gameplay faster, right? I'm not saying Warzone is faster than Blackout as a whole, because honestly I don't think it is, but in terms of just actual gunfights, I feel like you get back in the gunfight a little bit quicker in Warzone because all you have to do is just you heal yourself automatically, and then you just pop in 1 or 2 plates and you're back in the gunfight and it's still going. So it's more about winning that initial gunfight rather than just putting a few shots down range and then calling it a day. You know what I mean? But in Blackout, it's more about the long term. Like, oh, I shot him twice, so if I roll up on him now, he's definitely still going to be healing, and then I'll take him out. But the problem is people will just sit behind the corner because they're just spending a lot of time healing and getting more armor in. It's a little ridiculous. I think the time to kill, how that all works in Warzone, definitely plays out a little bit better than how it plays out in Blackout. And next up, I got the map. And the map is also incredibly important. Now, it's a little bit different here because Blackout actually has 2 maps currently, as Warzone only has 1 map. We do know Rebirth Island is going to be coming really soon, but again, this is not including that. This is just including the map itself. And I don't know if it's fair to compare because, like I said, there's, less maps. But even when I don't take into account Alcatraz, I'm still going to give the edge to Blackout here, and let me explain why. So the only thing I like about the Warzone map better than Blackout, well, A, I love the train. The train's really cool. That's one part of the map I really, really like. And B, it definitely feels more realistic. Like, it feels like the locations work with each other a little bit better. Like, they actually kind of make sense where they are. Blackout's locations don't make any sense. They're just a giant map with a bunch of places. But in terms of gameplay and overall enjoyment, I love Blackout's map a lot more. It's obviously smaller than Warzone, but what I like about it more is that it's not nearly as dense, which this might be seen as a bad thing to some people because they might like a lot of content within the map. But the problem with Warzone having a million buildings, which half the buildings are just reused, I really don't like that about War. I mean, Blackout technically does the same thing in a lot of places, but it's just so much worse in Warzone. There's like the same building like 40 times over. It's just like, oh my god, you couldn't get some other buildings here? Jesus, same houses, it's crazy. But there's just so many buildings in Warzone that people are just camping everywhere, man. There's so many places to camp in Warzone. It's so insanely dense. I'm not a fan of that. I'm really not a fan of how dense the map is. Now, Blackout, on the other hand, is just a couple locations, well, a decent amount of locations, and they're pretty much just a max like a couple stories high at most, usually like 1 to 2 floors. The only place that's really high up is like the construction site, but that's really it. There's maybe like another place that's a little bit higher as well, but most of them are pretty ground level, which I think plays out a lot better because people aren't camping as much. People are running through the grassland, they're running building to building. They're not just sitting in a tall ass tower for the entirety of the match. And I do that myself in Warzone sometimes, and I'll explain why. This is another thing later on the list that causes a lot more camping in Warzone. But the map itself, I just think Blackout's just more of a fun map. And again, with the whole color thing, the colors are also much better on the map. It's so much prettier to look at. So much prettier. You got water and swimming in Blackout. You have so many iconic locations. You have Verrucked, you have Buried, you have Hijacked, Nuketown, Raid, all these awesome firing range, all these awesome places for multiplayer or zombies, even a little campaign homage here and there. And then Warzone's got like what? You got Vacant, and then you got like Scrapyard. That's basically it. Like, there's really not too many iconic locations. How cool would it be if they had like Rust or High Rise or Terminal or all these other places? I think they could have easily have fit them in, but they didn't. And why not even go crazier? Have stuff from like Infinite Warfare Zombies in there. Have like, I don't know, Zombies in Spaceland as a little location. That would have been insanely cool. But instead they went the more serious route just to make it a really boring Russian woodland. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the map. I do think it's a little bit boring, and how it plays as well in the gameplay, not only in the looks, but also the gameplay. It is not nearly as good as the Blackout map. And then obviously if you take into account Alcatraz is just amazing. So that is obviously a big thing. Next up, I've got game modes. So game modes are basically everything besides the main solo, trios, duos, quads, basically anything besides that, anything they add in throughout the life cycle. It doesn't have to be a mode that's currently there. It could be a mode that's just ever been added at all. But obviously the longer the mode's there, the better, for sure. I'm going to be giving this category to Blackout. Now, Warzone has had some pretty cool secondary game modes, I have to say, but most of them end up being really boring, and I usually don't even touch them, except for a couple. I think obviously their best mode was Zombie Royale. I think that's a complete, obvious answer. Zombie Royale was really, really cool, and I would argue probably the most fun I had in Warzone like ever. Like, it was really cool, and I'm kind of pissed they got rid of it because it should have just stayed. I mean, they probably put a lot of work into making it too, so I don't see the problem with keeping it at all. But Zombie Royale was really awesome, like I said, and I think that's definitely the highlight of Warzone's game modes. Plunder has been there ever since launch. I don't think they got rid of it, and Plunder's pretty fun, I have to say. It can be pretty fun, but I would never play it more than like once a month at most or something. It's not something I'd play very often because it's not Battle Royale. And same thing with the other mode they added, like Team Rumble or something. It's, again, not Battle Royale. It's just using the Battle Royale map on these like other completely different modes. Now, Blackout was able to make interesting modes, but still keep it as being a Battle Royale mode. And those modes were, of course, Hot Pursuit, Heavy Metal Heroes, which Heavy Metal Heroes, to me, is one of the funnest game modes in any Battle Royale I've ever played. It's simply just Battle Royale, quads, right? But you have exosuits, which y'all know me. I actually really do enjoy the advanced movement in most of the Call of Duty that it's been in. And having it in a Battle Royale was just really, really fun. And I think it fit the map pretty well. And it was a mode that I actually tried to play often. And it's still there to this day, thankfully, so I can hop in whenever I want. And Hot Pursuit was also pretty fun too. It wasn't as fun, but I remember when they first added it, I thought it was really, really cool. And both these modes are really great because you get to come back regardless if you die. You have second chances, which I think definitely makes it more replayable, because that's one of the issues I have with Blackout, we'll get into a little bit later, is that there's no way to come back. There's no second chances. If you die, you're out for the rest of the game. These modes obviously make it so you can come back, and that's something I really, really enjoy. Then, of course, you have Alcatraz, which is a mode and a map at the same time, and wow, easily the best part of Blackout, I would say. It is so much fun. Again, being able to come back after dying and just continuously go into the game. As long as your team stays alive and as long as you guys don't die too many times, you're good to go. It is a great mode, and definitely Blackout's modes beat most of Warzone stuff. I think Zombie Royale is the only thing Warzone's done that's really like, spectacular. Everything else, Juggernaut Royale, all that crap, I couldn't care less about. But Blackout, they had some pretty damn good modes, I have to say. Next up is the looting. So looting is really important to Battle Royale, and it can honestly make or break it. And I'm gonna have to give this to Blackout, and a lot of people are gonna be like, what? Are you kidding me? This is definitely an unpopular opinion because people, at least from my experience, like Warzone's looting a lot more. But I'll explain why I don't really like Warzone's looting all that much. And Neurocinema said the same thing in his video, and I'll repeat pretty much the same thing. The thing about Battle Royales is that there's going to be a lot of points in the mode where you're not getting into action, right? Because that's just the very nature of it. When you die, you're out of the game pretty much, depending on, the gulag and all that, but you're out, right? If your whole team's dead, you're out. And therefore, you're on a big map. There's a decent amount of people, but you're still not going to be coming across people consistently. There's going to be a lot of points where you're either just running around, walking around, looking around, or sitting around. Like, that happens a lot in Battle Royales. That's just how it is. That's one of the reasons I feel like people don't like them as much as others. I feel like people who are really just like they want action, they always want to play MP because they need that consistent action. People who are not very patient just don't really like battle royales. But what I think is really great about Blackout is that even during those moments, the looting is so insanely deep and detailed, and just there's a lot more to it, that even between those moments, there's a lot of stuff to do. You're just going around looting. There's so many new things to find. You can go here, you can go there. You can always upgrade your weapons to like insane. You get a lot better weapons practically as you keep going along, because you're finding better things. You're finding even better things as you're going, right? But in Warzone, all you have to do is get $10,000, right? Which is relatively easy to do, especially if you're with a team. You just drop it like downtown or something. You'll find the money pretty quick. You buy a loadout drop and you have your loadout. You literally have your loadout. Now all you need is a kill streak and maybe a, some armor plates. And you can buy all those from the armor stand. You don't even have to loot. You can easily win a game just getting some money and then never looting the rest of the game. You don't have to loot the rest of the game, unless obviously you die in the gulag, or you die and then you go to the gulag and you win the gulag and you come back. Then you might have to loot a little bit, but even then you get like 1 or 2 guns. You're gonna find a decent gun pretty quickly. And then again, once you get that loadout drop, which they even drop in themselves, you don't even have to buy them, you're gonna get your setup. And I'm not a big fan of that. I do think the way the money works and the looting otherwise is pretty solid. I think having weapons as the rarities as opposed to having guns with attachments is probably a better system. It's a little bit simpler, it's less complex, which is definitely better for casual players. But it also just makes it so there's obviously less stuff to do in terms of looting, and you're not going to be able to continuously get better weapons as the game goes on. You know what I mean? And even just in terms of other stuff like equipment, there's so many cooler things and gadgets you can get within Warzone or within Blackout compared to Warzone that I almost don't really care to loot in Warzone. I feel like you find something, you're like, do I really need that? You find a sentry gun, is it really necessary? You know what I mean? The one thing people complained about with Blackout was that it was really hard to manage your loot. Like, it was really hard to go around and get different things, and I agree, it was hard to manage it at first, but once you learned it, well, of course they did update it over time, so they made it a little bit easier. But again, as you learn it, it gets so much easier. And then now to me, whenever I play Blackout, it's like muscle memory, and I'm doing it in 2 seconds. I'm doing everything I need to do insanely quick. And that happened with Warzone too. I mean, Warzone wasn't the easiest management either, but Blackout took a little bit of time, and once you get it down, it's pretty easy. Most people just complain about it after their first time ever playing because they don't want anything remotely complex. People are afraid of complexity. They want everything to be simple, which to a degree simplicity is good in some cases, but in other cases a little bit of complexity is not that bad because it just gives you more things to do, therefore making it more replayable. Next up, I have in-game features that are specific to those modes. So basically just, unique features that are in-game for either Warzone or Blackout. And this is actually going to go to Warzone because of one thing and one thing only, and that is the gulag. The gulag was the best change to Warzone going from Blackout, because this is my biggest issue with Blackout's normal modes, is that when you die, you're out. You're done. There's no way of coming back. There's no reboot cards. There's no gulag. There's no, second chance. No, when you die, it's over. And because it's Call of Duty, you can die relatively easy in really stupid ways. You can be running across the grass, just get sniped randomly. You can get someone throw a Semtex at you while you're sitting in a room. So many ways you can just die. It's super frustrating spending all this time looting and doing all these things just to get killed like that. I do like how Warzone gives you the second chance of coming back, especially in solos. And then when you go to duos and trios and quads, even after you die in the gulag, you can still get bought back. And the reason why I like this a lot is because, again, if you're with a team in Blackout and you die early on, you can't, again, just like any other mode, you can't come back. You just can't. And that's just not fun, especially if you die right off the bat and your team goes to the end of the game and wins. They just played a 20-minute game without you. You were just sitting there spectating the whole time. You know what I mean? It's just not fun. I think the gulag really changed how this game plays, and of course the buyback system's great as well. And there's other in-game features in Warzone that are great as well, like the objectives that you could pick up, like the recon thing or the supply run thing, all these different objectives that you can do in-game. give you something to do, which I was complaining about the looting before, making it so you can't do much in Warzone, but this is a great extra thing in Warzone to give you to do, which makes Warzone a little bit better in this category. Obviously, looting is a different category, but I'm just saying in terms of the in-game features, the Gulag and the objectives are great. Now, Blackout does have some pretty cool, unique features, specifically the zombies on the map. Obviously, this is everywhere. There's every mode, there's zombies in these specific locations that are, zombie locations like Nuketown, like I believe there's a farmhouse as well. You have the asylum, buried. All these places have zombies roaming around it. I do think it's pretty cool. I do like that idea. And then you get the mystery box, which has some pretty cool rewards in it, which is pretty fun. And there's also character challenges, which you find these specific like token things you have to pick up around the map and do a challenge to get a specific character that you can only unlock through that specific challenge. I like that a lot, but the Gulag just completely demolishes this category just because of how it changed Battle Royale, at least how it changed Call of Duty Battle Royale, because this isn't really new. I mean, you had reboot cards, and I believe Apex Legends had a reboot card system way before that, so I don't know, it's not very new to Battle Royale to let you come back, but you get the idea. It made Warzone so much more fun. Next up, I have weapons, equipment, and vehicles. So basically just things in the map that you can use to kill people, practically, right? And I'm going to give this one to Blackout. I think Blackout has just a little bit more fun toys to mess with, and definitely with the vehicles. There's some really cool vehicles in Blackout that you can mess around with. And Warzone, I like the guns in Warzone because they're more realistic, right? They feel beefier, they're definitely cooler looking, they have better animations. But Blackout also has awesome ass mastercrafts and a lot more attachments and the operator mods and all that just make the guns, in my opinion, a little bit more fun to use, just a little bit more fun to use than Warzone's guns. But I think what really pushes Blackout over Warzone in this category is, like I said, the vehicles and the equipment. There are so many cool pieces of equipment to use in Blackout because of all the different operator gadgets from multiplayer. Like you have the barricade, you have the Torx barbed wire, you have, the recon drone, you have all these different things that you can use that were within multiplayer with the specialists now in Blackout. And the vehicles, like I said, they're really cool. The helicopter's really cool. You have like a tank in Heavy Metal Heroes. It's not in normal modes, thank God, but it's pretty fun in Heavy Metal Heroes, especially because you can boost around it, so it's really not that hard to avoid, but it's still cool to be there. You have these really cool motorcycles. You have those really awesome hot rod cars. A lot more just fun vehicles. I feel like Blackout just emphasized fun a little bit more, while Warzone emphasized competitiveness and realism in some aspects. And to me, I was always more of a fan of just having fun, just random arcade shooter-esque fun. And that's what I feel like Blackout was able to provide a little bit more in terms of the weaponry on the map. I really hope that this Blackout or Black Ops Cold War iteration of Warzone will include a lot of the fun stuff from Cold War, because there's a lot of cool stuff from Cold War, and I really hope they implement even some of the zombie stuff, because it's a huge thing that Blackout did. They introduced all these awesome wonder weapons from zombies within the game. You can get the Reagan Mark II, you can get the Winter's Hell, you can get the Blundergat, all these cool wonder weapons you can literally use from doing different Easter eggs and such in Blackout and Alcatraz. Awesome stuff, man. I definitely think they did better with the weapons, equipment, and vehicles in Blackout. So we are now tied 5-5. We have one more category. Whoever wins this category wins the game. And this category was really hard to choose between, I'll be completely honest. So we've got microtransactions, the nasty thing no one wants to talk about. So microtransactions are, interestingly enough, there's one part of it I like more in Blackout and one part of it I like more in Warzone, right? I think the obvious thing would be, in Warzone, you don't have to deal with DLC guns being locked behind supply drops, which only happened for a couple months in Black Ops 4 Blackout. It was only a couple months where that was the case, and that's really dragging it down, though, because to me, I just really did not like the whole... I mean, obviously, I didn't like guns being, locked behind drops, but then they had these little crates or something called Blackjack's Crate, I think it was called, and you would only be able to get your own selection of DLC guns from it, based on whatever you had, right? Whatever you had unlocked, and it was on the maps. And that kind of sucked because it was like, okay, well now you have to get the gun in order to use it on the map. You can't even get it in any other way. So that was really shitty. But I feel like almost everything else was better in Blackout in terms of cosmetics, in terms of the battle pass. Now, not in terms of the content in it itself, but in terms of how you get it, right? And I say this in terms of cosmetics because you had the characters that you could unlock via challenge in Blackout, a lot of characters like that. Then unfortunately you had a lot of characters that were only either through drops or in the shop. Currently now there's a lot of cool mastercrafts you can get for free just by grinding the game out with the whole, contract system, and I really like that. But unfortunately during its life cycle there was a lot of issues, like I said, with the guns being locked behind drops and a lot of other issues with that. So I do think Warzone's microtransaction model is a little bit better just because of the DLC gun situation, but honestly I have more fun with the different cosmetic challenges and such you can go for in a Blackout. But I have to be a little bit objective here and realize that guns do matter more than cosmetics. So hopefully you all enjoyed. Warzone is going to get the victory here though. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Do you like Warzone more? Do you like Blackout more? I think both modes are fantastic. I do. I think they are really fun, really awesome takes on the Battle Royale genre. I just think Warzone's a tad bit better. I think a big part of that has to do with the free-to-play aspect, the gulag, some of the in-game mechanics like the time to kill, and the healing and how the armor works. I'm just really damn excited to see how Cold War can take their content and merge it into, Verdansk a little bit, or I guess, Warzone as a whole. I think Warzone could be a lot better if a few changes were made, specifically getting a new map. Hopefully it's a good map. I think giving us some ways to unlock cosmetic characters through challenges would be great as well. Giving us some more fun weapons and vehicles and equipment would be nice as well. Just give us a lot of that cool stuff, which we're going to get because of Cold War, so that's already pretty exciting in its own right. I really do think a lot of these issues that I had with Warzone could definitely be changed with this new Black Ops Cold War iteration. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.